Hi buddies, hope you're doing fine. In this series, we are going to see the summary of the novel Anita Nair's Ladies Coupe. And if you're ready, let's get started. First, let's see the thing that what are the things are portraying in this novel and also what about this novel. First, let's cover all those things. In Ladies Coupe, Anita Nair portrays about the concept of male chauvinism and also the novel signifying the theme of inequality in relationship. So this is the foremost thing about this novel, and in this novel itself, Anita Nair, who raises a question about what is the role of woman in contemporary post-colonial India. For giving the solution to this question, she has used a lot of styles and techniques to portray throughout the novel, and also she says that in India, women who suffers from a system of sex role stereotyping, and also women are in the state of oppression that exists under the power of patriarchal society. So this is the thing about the perception of Anita Nair. Then move on to the women characters which portrayed by Anita Nair in Ladies Coupe. So all the women characters in Ladies Coupe, they seems to be the personification of new women who have been trying to throw off all the burden of inhibition they have carried for ages, which refers to their past. So the women characters who wants to throw off all their burdens which experienced in their past. This novel itself, the women characters, all the women characters in this novel, they want to go through all their grueling experiences of domestic oppression at the hands of the repressive forces of society that refers to the men, or we can use the term patriarchal society. Fortunately, final climax of this novel, the female characters, they revolted against the oppressions and resolved to discover them, and also they establish new thing in themselves in society. So these are all the few things about a seed of this novel, or it is a little thing about the novel. So now this is the time to move on to the summary. So the novel Ladies Coupe, which traces the life of 6 women as they travel in the ladies compartment, and it is all about a train journey. The protagonist of the novel is Sheila. She is also one of the women who traveling in the train. If we want to talk about her, in this novel, she searched within herself for strength, independence, and also wants to get answer for many questions that have disturbed in her spinsterhood, which means before the marriage life. So here the important thing is the protagonist, her name is Sheila. She is also the one who traveling in the train in her same compartment, that is a ladies compartment. So in the compartment she meets 5 other women. Their names are Janaki, Margaret, Shanti, Brabhadevi, Sheila, and the final one is Kulinde. So this novel is about the lives of 6 women, that is Sheila's life story, Janaki, Margaret, Shanti, Brabhadevi, Sheila, and the final one is Kulinde. These guys are traveling in the same ladies compartment, and as they are traveling, Sheila who asked a problematic question to them. The 5 other women who sat near to her, like, can a woman stay single and be happy? Hearing to this question, the 5 other women started to answer this one. So for answering to this question, everybody, the 5 other women who starts to narrate their own story with bringing the solution to this question. Through the portrayal of all these stories, Anita Nair, who has sympathetically explained the women's agonies, endurance, sufferings, and also many stuffs like anticipations, tolerance, their patience, sacrifice, and so on. So first let's look about the story of Akila, who is the protagonist of the novel. She's a 45-year-old spinster. She is refers that she's a daughter, she's a sister, she's a aunt, and the main thing, she is the one and only provider of her family after the death of her father. When Akila's father dies, all the responsibilities comes to her shoulder, and due to her yearning only, her family runs, and she makes her siblings to pursue their studies. Her younger brother, he can pursue his studies because of her money, and because of her financial support, her family runs, and her younger brothers can finish their studies. Her one of the younger brother name is Narayanan, who becomes a mechanic, and her another younger brother who becomes a teacher. The teacher, his name is Nasi. After his studies, he decided to marry the college principal's daughter, but nobody in Akila's family have a little bit concern about or a consideration about Akila's marriage. No one. So this is the main thing which prevailing in the family of Akila. And also in another thing, when her younger brother Nasi, who told the family that he was going to marry the principal's daughter. So when this situation comes, no one in the family could find fault with his choice. And also, no one in the family, there was nothing to say that should wait for your elder sister to get married before you think of a wife and a family. So this is the thing comes for Nasi, and Akila's younger sister, her name is Batma. She's also a grown up. Her marriage is also planned. In that occasion or in that circumstances also, no one in the family seems to think that Akila too has her needs. She is also in the stage to get married. But the one and only thing is always happen that all the household responsibilities and all the fulfilling needs in all the occasions, to fulfill all the needs of the family, which goes to the head of Akila, but everyone treats her that she's just a woman. She's not a man. So no one in the family of Akila who never consider about her needs and desires. Is all the burdens of the family which is in the shoulders of Akila. But if she want to do something for her, in that moment, Akila's mother always often used to say that you have to, you should, you must to get permission from your brother, and then you can proceed. So Akila's mother often used to say to her that first get permission from your brother, after that you can. This is what happens in her life. One fine day, Akila argues that I'm the elder sister, and why I should ask permission from my brother, and what's wrong with you? Likewise, she argues with her mother. For this, her mother replies to her like, you might be older, but you are a woman and they are the men of the family. This is what her mother replies to her, and here rises male chauvinism. Sooner then, again an incident came when Akila has a thought to live alone. For this opinion of Akila, her younger sister Batma says that ask permission from our brothers because they are the men of the family. So you should, and you have to reveal your opinion to our brothers. Likewise, Batma says, and also Batma continues like, do you think the brothers will consent this? Do you think they will let you live alone? So these are the things happen in Akila's life in her past, which makes her to take a decision to empower herself with alone. So she started to break their restrictions by boarding the train to Kanyakumari to discover herself. And this is the nutshell story about Akila and then Janaki, one of the companion who journey in the train with Akila. So now let's move on to the story of Janaki. At the age of 18, Janaki, who married Brabhadevi, when Brabhadevi age is 27, here we can clearly know the age gap between Brabhadevi and Janaki, and this made Brabhadevi feel dominating. And dominating in the sense, Brabhadevi, who always pamper his wife Janaki, this made her to feel her husband was a dominated fellow. But the actual thing is, Brabhadevi, who always pampered Janaki, but she feels that it is an uncomfortable one. Then Janaki begot a son. After that, he grew up. Then he married a girl named Jaya. After their marriage, Janaki's daughter-in-law Jaya, who notices the relationship between Janaki and Brabhadevi, this makes Janaki feel irritated. Why? Because this circumstances also, Brabhadevi, who pamper his wife Janaki, on seeing this, Jaya feels that mother-in-law is too lucky to have her husband, but this thing makes Janaki to feel get irritated. Janaki's son name is Siddharth. After the wedding and honeymoon of Siddharth and Jaya, Janaki feel very uncomfortable because Jaya's eyes are always noticing on me. Why? Because Brabhadevi, who always do the household works like chopping the vegetables, washes the dishes and cooking the foods, clothes to dry, clothes to hang out, fold the clothes of the switches. So these are the household works. These practices which are always done by Brabhadevi regularly. And in one occasion, Jaya says to Janaki that, Mummy, you're too lucky to have Papa as your husband. Also, she continues with, Papa always takes care of every small activities in house. On hearing this, instead of taking in a good manner, Janaki feels that Jaya thinks me as a weak woman. At that very moment, Brabhadevi, who explains to his daughter-in-law that how bold your mother-in-law is when we stay in a small town near Hyderabad. In that place, Mrs. Bott is staying there and who was 8 months pregnant, and she got her labor pain. At that time, Janaki, who helped her by stopping the truck and taking her to hospital. And another important thing is when Brabhadevi, who explained this to Jaya by mentioning Janaki as mummy to Jaya, on hearing all those things, Janaki, who feels very angry because her husband often used to say this story to everyone, considering this incident as a Janaki's lifetime achievement. And at that very moment, Janaki wants to scream in front of everyone in a loud manner, like, don't call me mummy. I'm not your mummy. I'm your wife. Remember, you used to call me Janu once. Wife, darling, sweetheart. And if you find it hard saying those, call me woman, but don't call me mummy. So, this is what happened at that very moment. After that, her son, Siddharth, who compares her to Jaya's mother by telling that Jaya's mother, that is Siddharth's mother-in-law, who can do anything by herself without anybody's help. And that time, Brabhadevi, who enters and asks Siddharth to say sorry to Janaki for raising the tone and talking to her. And this is the thing not only happened, but also whenever Siddharth had choice to talk to her mother, he often used to say that, after father, I will take care of you. And this makes Janaki to feel very sad. I'm a woman who has always been looked after. First, there was my father and my brothers, then my husband. When my husband is gone, there will be my son, waiting to take off from where his father left off. Women like me end up being fragile. Our men treat us like prizes. Likewise, she uttered, and this is the nutshell story which happened in Akila's life. Then move on to the story of Margaret Shanti. Margaret Shanti, she is good at studies and she is a 20-year-old girl. In her PG, that means in her MSc chemistry, she got gold medal. So her parents wishes to make her to pursue PhD, but in the church meeting, Margaret Shanti, who meets Ebenezer Paulraj. Ebenezer Paulraj is a good teacher. Both are fall in love. Ebenezer Paulraj is a good teacher. So he wants, Margaret also wants to be a good teacher. And both of them are loving each other. They got permission from their family members. That means from their parents. So everything goes on well. On the day before the marriage also, Margaret's father enters into Margaret's rooms and said that Ebenezer Paulraj is a good man and he will make you very happy. So this is the appraisal from her father also. The first 1 year of their marriage life which goes on in a very well manner. After the 18 months of marriage, Margaret was pregnant. She was very happy and wants to say this happy news to her parents, and she utters like, I wanted to stand on the rooftop and hold her, I'm going to have a baby. Likewise, her happiness goes on in a high pitch. But on hearing this happy news, Ebenezer is very sad and asks her to abort the baby. Why? Because he feels that after the settlement in their career, they have a baby. So, Margaret accepted to abort the baby before informing this good news to her parents. After that, Margaret wants to pursue her doctorate in chemistry. But Ebenezer says to her that I want you to continue with Bachelor of Education, that means B.Ed, so that we can work together. And in many occasions, Ebenezer, who often controls his wife, even in haircut also, he says to her like, long hair doesn't suit you, cut it off. You will look nicer with your hair in a blonde bob. So even in silly matters, Ebenezer Paulraj, who controls his wife in a very dominated manner, and in all the occasion, Margaret, who patiently moves on with her patience and also she sacrifices everything for her husband. When Margaret enters into the operation theatre for abortion, Ebenezer Paulraj says to her like, all the best. When hearing this from the mouth of Ebenezer Paulraj, she feels very angry with Ebenezer for the very first time. So we can take the example of male chauvinism through the character Ebenezer Paulraj in this novel. And another important thing is that they keep everything in a secret manner, so they never reveal the matter to their family members also, even with their parents also. So whenever Margaret's family members praises Ebenezer Paulraj as a good husband and also good son-in-law, and he's a very successful man, and whenever she hearing all those things from her parents about the appraisal of her husband, she can't tolerate it, and also she never opened her mouth to reveal the secrets with her parents. And in some occasion, she wants to divorce him, but she's afraid of it because the girl from a respected family must grit her teeth and also work hard to preserve their relationship. So, if she leaves Ebenezer Paulraj, she must be prepared to lose her family also. So in this novel, Margaret's words are like, what do I do? I ask myself again and again. So this is what happening in her life. In one fine day, Ebenezer, who stops the maid servant and asks Margaret to do all the household chores, and in all the time he started to scold Margaret even in silly things like cleaning the wardrobes, keeping the certificate in a very good manner. So he dominating his wife in a very cruel manner while comparing his love life or before their marriage life. On the other hand, Ebenezer Paulraj is very much interested in sports, so he likes to run. In his school, he changed the dress in evening and He would run around the ground, so the students in the ground will admire him. So the words of Ebenezer Polrodge is always like, running is the best exercise, nothing can match it, neither swimming nor tennis, my other favorite sports. And he maintained his body in a very good manner. So his appetite for food is uncontrollable one. So his wife Margaret, she often used to hide her favorite snacks and chocolates bar in the wardrobe or on the top of the bookcase. So this is the small thing also happening in their life. In the working place, Ebenezer, who has infatuated on Daffy, Daffy is also working in the school of Ebenezer. One particular situation, Margaret knows this thing. In the school, every weekend, Ebenezer will invite staff members to come home to discuss about school matters. That time, Daffy, she writes poetry and recites in front of them in a husky voice. And in all the time, Margaret often wishes that someone could laugh on her. I mean, someone could laugh on Daffy. So here we can clearly know the possessiveness of Margaret. In one fine day, Ebenezer Polrodge, who punishes a student in a very intolerable manner. The boy name is Alfred Aarogyaswamy. He is 9-year-old. Ebenezer, who wrote the parent of Alfred Aarogyaswamy in the diary that the hair should be cut. But unfortunately, the boy, Alfred Aarogyaswamy, he doesn't cut his hair. So Ebenezer, who calls Alfred Aarogyaswamy to his room after the morning assembly, and he gathered a handful of Alfred's hair and clasped a rubber band around it so that the tuft of curls resemble a pineapple. And also he says to him that keep the rubber band till the evening. On hearing this news, Margaret, who enters the room of Ebenezer Polrodge and scolds him. And for this, Ebenezer, who says that I will have to take strict action, I will not let who you are influence my decisions. Do you understand? This is my school and I know what's best for my students. Likewise, he raises his tone in a dominant manner. After that, Alfred's mother takes Alfred to the barber shop and shave his hair. Then the wish of Ebenezer Polrodge is fulfilled. Then close to some days, Alfred, who is climbing the highest branches of the tree and sliding down the staircases to Ebenezer. On that particular moment, Margaret points out Alfred's rude nature to Ebenezer Polrodge in a complaining tone, when his words are like, boys will be boys. So, this is what Ebenezer is becoming more and more egoistic, domineering and also a hypocritic fellow. And from that moment, Margaret is unconsciously compelled to teach him a lesson. So she chooses flattery as a weapon to bring down Ebenezer's self-esteem. She flatters and feeds him with the fatty food till fat finds its home on him and turns him into a fat man. Ebenezer became a fat man, and soon he became a quiet man and an easy man who seeks for help for every task. Though Margaret suffers a lot from the tortures of Ebenezer Polrodge, she sets a goal that I want to empower myself and wants to come out from the web and finds the own way for me. Likewise, she come out and she empowers herself. So, this is the nutshell story of Margaret Shanti. Then move on to the story of Sheila. She is the youngest one. She is 14 years old in the group. She talks about her grandmother and she is explained that how she molded by patriarchal hands in the hands of men. In her younger life, she feels very embarrassed and experienced many hurts. One of her friend, Hazaina, her father, Nazar, when his unwanted touch on her in one Sunday afternoon, when she attempted physical abuse, and from that day onwards, She develops confidence to protect herself in her future. Even Sheila's friend Hazaina and her mother are unable to voice their contempt for his attitude because they are helpless. So she's in a very young age. She take right decision. She mold her confidence. She learn how to protect herself for self protection. The main purpose to include the story of Sheila in this novel, Anita Nair has brought in an incident where a girl named Celine, she's pregnant because of her friend's father, and her family moves to a place where no one will know about her abortion. Through this incident, Anita Nair has brought out the unjust treatment of women by the hands of men. So, this is the story of Sheila. After that, we'll move on to the story of Brabhadevi. In the world, even parents are more concerned about the boys than the girls. Keeping this point in your mind, and then hear the story of Brabhadevi. Because Anita Nair has chosen the character of Brabhadevi to emphasize this issue. Brabhadevi's father was a jewelry store owner. He has already 4 sons. On the 5th also he expected to have a son. On the contrary, Brabhadevi was born as a daughter, 5th in filial order. In actual thing, he planned to open 5th jewelry store in Madras, and also he has a thought like Brabhadevi will be a boy, and his words are like 5 stores, 5 boys, and everyone will be happy. But in the contrary manner, when Brabhadevi was born as a girl, his plan was collapsed. Only Brabhadevi's mother was happy about the girl. She felt at least she had someone to leave her recipes and treasure her jewelry. But her father was not like this. Her father says that, has this baby, apart from ruining my business plans, addle your brains as well. If you ask me, a daughter is a bloody nuisance. On this, Brabhadevi's mother says to her father that they had already 4 sons and this girl will not do any harm to their business. When the marriage time comes, they can find a family which aids their business interest. So, when Brabhadevi was grown up and her marriage time comes, her father was in the mind of business interest. So, when he accepts his own daughter. In her childhood days, when Brabhadevi is 15 years old, her father put her in convent school, and her father expects that none in the school will groom her well. That will help him to search for good alliance. Brabhadevi is allowed only on Saturday to go out and spend 2 hours with her friends. One fine day, Brabhadevi's father says that he has found a husband for Brabhadevi, and everyone in the family was very happy and expected that her father accept the child. And finally, she got married to Jagadish. Here, another important thing also there. Why? Because the marriage happened in a business motive of her father. Why? Because Jagadish, he is the only one son and he is the heir of a prosperous diamond merchant. So, Brabhadevi's father decides that I can expand the diamond section in jewelry store after their marriage. After the marriage of the couple, Brabhadevi who behaves as a perfect daughter-in-law and she does all the household things. When Jagadish takes her abroad, she admires the fashion of the abroad. After returning from abroad, Brabhadevi changes the way of dressing and walking style. She even delays the pregnancy. When Jagadish says to Brabhadevi like, my parents are getting impatient. They talk of a grandchild all the time. We have been married for almost a year now. On hearing the thing from her husband, she leaves all the fashion and behaves like a girl when she was newly married. Then she gets pregnant. Then she returns into a good wife and also an excellent mother. But in her inside, she has a lot of words to speak to herself. Like Brabhadevi, Brabhadevi, where have you been? I became a woman, neither heard nor seen. The mirror retorted, rhyming grimly, Brabhadevi, Brabhadevi, where did you do there? The parody continued. I waited and waited till ash speckled my hair. Time moves on. When she becomes 40 years old, she has begun to realize that she has missed something in her life. After that, she craves to learn swimming. But her husband Jagdish does not give his consent towards her pleading request because he wants his wife to be a submissive one. And he's also behaving like a typical conservative make. But out of her desire or interest, Brabhadevi ultimately learns swimming without anybody's help. Thus, she empowers herself and also she molds herself to achieve her desire. And that's all about the summary of the life of Brabhadevi. Then move on to the story of Kulinde. If we read the novel, Kulinde is the most pathetic woman among the six. Why? Because she is the realistic picture of the humble and miserable peasantry women on whom male oppression is forced on heavily and also left unquestioned. She leads a simple and humble life with her family in Pallur near Kanjipuram. Her father is a farmer, her mother Kanahambaram is a housemaker. She has two brothers, Iswaran and also Sivakumar. Marikulinda's father has some land where he works very hard. Her father hates working for Chettiar Kotai. Why? Because Chettiar makes money through silkworms. He has many own looms to weave sari. So, he hates the thing for working Chettiar Kotai. And Marikulinda's father was a very humble person. His words are like, to kill God creatures day after day and profit from their death. I'm a farmer. The only creatures that die because of me are the ones that my plow cuts into, and even those I kill unknowingly. But Chettiar is not like that. Their intention is to earn money, but they are intentionally killing the silkworms and yarns. So I hate to working for them. Marikulinda's mother Kanahamaram, she is well versed in culinary skills, which is very famous in the village. So she is called often to Chettiar Kotai in special occasions. When Marikulinda is 9, her father died. After the death of Marikulinda's father, her mother's Kanahamaram's culinary skills also are dead, and Kanahamaram she leaves house early morning and return in night. So Marikulindu only takes the home. She does all the household chores and she's happy to do that work like playing house. 2 years later, Kanahamaram feels Marikulindu's help is needed in Chettiar Kotai. For that, Marikulindu says that I would have to go to the town if I wish to study and further. The village school had classes only till the 5th standard. But Kanahamaram feels that she can't afford to send Marikulindu by bus. She also feels how she can send the young girl by herself alone to school. Marikulinda also accepts to go to Chettiar Kotai because of the family party in the family and to make their brothers to study. As I have already mentioned, like she is to having brothers, so her mother cannot afford for her studies. When Marikulinda attains the womanhood, she feels her entire life is changed. After that, Marikulinda is stopped by Sujata Akka as her brother-in-law and her husband are looking Marikulinda in a wrong way. Marikulinda, she has experienced sexual abuse by the brother-in-law and husband of Sujata Akka. In her home, Marikulinda works. So the very reason Sujata Akka who stops Marikulinda to work in her home, and her words are like, I know you are a good girl, but it is unwise to leave cotton and a matchstick side by side. One wrong move and everything could go up in flames. So Sujata Akka who mentioning her husband and also her brother-in-law as a matchstick, Marikulinda as a cotton. Later that, Sujata Akka sent Marikulundu to Velur to work in a doctor's house. When Marikulundu's mother's leg bone cracks, she is advised to take rest. So again Marikulundu comes to Chettiar Kotai as a cook. But in the village, a person called Murugesan, one of the relatives of Chettiar, he is a wicked person. Basically, he has a baleful opinion about girls, and he is searching for a good occasion to seduce Marikulundu. And unfortunately, ultimately, she falls in his trap. Murugesan brutally seduces her. This incident changes her life completely. She has lost everything. Marikulundu has lost everything. And Sujataka, she is the daughter-in-law of Chettiar. She tells to Marikulundu that should not reveal this thing to anyone. You have to conceal this issue. So here we can clearly know that though her rapist is known, he is not punished. And another important thing is that Marikulundu gives birth to an illegitimate baby and he is called Muthu. After the birth of Muthu, he is taken care by Marikulundu's mother. After the death of her mother, nobody is there to support her. Even her younger brothers tell her to leave the house with her child Muthu. But after that, she decides to live on her own. She does not depend on any other person. She joins the mission hospital as a helper and she defines her as an independent woman. Though she does not have anything, she doesn't lose her hope. And finally, she empowers herself and proves to the world that she can lead a good life. A single girl and a single mother can be survive in this world. So she finally utters like, all I wanted was a measure of happiness. All I wanted to be was Muthu's mother. That's what she proves to the world, that she is an empowered woman. And this is the story of Marikulundu. So in this very novel, we hear the story of 6 women along with their struggles and sufferings in their life. Through this novel, we can clearly know the thing like how women are strong in this conservative of the patriarchal structure which frame in a strict social, political and also an economic limitations on women. Through the character of the protagonist's mother, that is Akhila's mother, she is also a conservative and also an orthodox mother, and she is also devoted to her husband, and her own theory expresses that a wife is always inferior to husband. Not only this one, she is a sort of woman who never takes decision on her own but left all decision to her husband, for she believes he knows best. Likewise, many of the women who are having these kind of theory and also having all the restrictions, but here another important thing is that every restrictions which is not written for men, only written for women, and their theory was like a good wife listen to her husband. And finally, another important incident in this novel is Akhila's mother. She behaves like a very conservative manner. So when Akhila wants her mother to take music lesson, as Karpaham's mother teaches dance. Karpagam is a friend or neighbor to Akhila. Her mother is a dance teacher. So Akhila wants her mother to take music lesson. For this, she disapproves of it, telling, I don't approve of what Karpagam's mother is doing. Likewise, her words were expressed in this manner. But after the death of Akhila's father, her mother let her eldest daughter, that is the protagonist Akhila, to shoulder the responsibilities, all the responsibilities of the family, of the entire family, and says her to take all the responsibilities as a single girl. So when we are reading this novel, we can understand more about the world and the happening of the emotional circumstances, social dilemmas, struggling against oppression and also destiny, and so on. And by listening the stories of 6 women which narrated by themselves in Ladies Coupe. And another important thing is that throughout the video I have pronounced like Ladies Coupe, but that is not the correct one, but the correct pronunciation of the title is Ladies Coupe. So you also have to pronounce like Ladies Coupe, not Ladies Coupe. And coming to this novel, various characters are taken the role, but every woman in this novel is breaking the chain of patriarchy which have haunted their life. Thus, in this novel, Ladies Coupe, Anita Nair has dealt with the themes like patriarchy and women empowerment. Though her characters have struggled due to patriarchy, at last they empower themselves and successfully relieve themselves from a web called patriarchy. And this is the overall summary of this novel. And before end this video, we will move on to the stuffs about this novel. So first, let's see the structure of this novel. So this novel, Ladies Coupe, which published in the year 2001, and it has the pages of 228 pages, and this novel has 11 chapters, and subtitle of this novel is, subheadings of the novel is, in the chapter 2, the heading is a certain age, and for the chapter 4, go grandmother go, and for the chapter 6, oil of vitriol, and chapter 8, afloat, and for the chapter 10, sister to real thing, and the final one is chapter 11. So here the heading is Akila speaks. Then move on to the techniques of this narration, or we can say like narrative techniques. Multi-narrators are taken in this novel, so their narration are in a very straightforward manner. The protagonist of the novel is Akila. Her full name is Akhilandeshwari. So the main narrator is a third person, and she is the central consciousness of this novel. And this novel has an oscillation between the present and also the past. So flashback techniques also used in this novel. And this novel which taken place in the 3 periods of time, that is past, present, future. Then first person narrators of this novel is Margaret Shanti and also Marie Kulinde. So these guys are refers to first person narrators, and the third person narrator is main narrator is a third person, and she is Akhilandeshwari. Stream of consciousness also used in this novel. So all these things are about the narrative techniques of this novel. Then move on to the themes. Throughout the novel, we can see plenty of themes. So transformation is also one of the theme in this novel. 6 women in this novel who transform in the patriarchal society. So this is the reason transformation is also one of the themes through these 6 women characters, and they are boldly unveils the plight of women, and also they successfully win the empowerment. Next, main theme of this novel is male chauvinism, and then pains and pleasure of marriage. And the minor themes of this novel is inequality, oppression of women, search for strength, independence, women's against endurance, sufferings, anticipations, and self-esteem of men, and women's confidence, then liberation, threshold of self-discovery. So these are all the themes which has taken in this novel. So all these things are about this novel. And that's all about this novel. Hope this video will be useful one, and thank you so much for watching this video till end. If you are having any suggestion, let me know in the comment section. We'll see you next video. Tata, bye bye.